Hey, what's up guys? This is the Admiral here. Welcome back to Flashplay. You may notice I am sounding a little bit different. I finally got myself a new microphone. You know, after 400 over videos recording with my shitty laptop mic, I decided to get a proper microphone. So I might sound a little bit different. It might sound a little bit weird. I'm still trying to tweak this thing and create, get the settings correct just for the right sound. But until then, just new sound and new whatever. New. Just everything was just new. Anyway, we're back in Questopia, which is not new. I think this is the first time I've ever gone back and played a game on a completely different difficulty level. So I turned off the music for a while there because it was very annoying. I'm gonna turn off the sound actually. It's actually way too loud, but I'm gonna leave it on for background music. Anyway, we're gonna jump in. My name is Admiral with capital letters. So we played Dark Elf the last time. I don't know what there are differences there are in the classes. I'm lost for words today. But anyway, there are different difficulties and there are different different endings apparently. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play in hard, and then if it still says there's something else, I might play insane. And I guess maybe a good time to play the video at double speed. Yeah, so from this point on, we are going to be going at 1.5 times or twice the speed, depending on whether I'm still able to be heard. Alright, so we're gonna go. And here we go. We're back again, slow again. I don't know exactly what skills I'm gonna play this time. I might not want to go for Dex so much this time around. But, potion of speed, potion of whatever. Give me that. Give me that. Oh, I've forgotten the keys. How the hell do I wear stuff? Why am I not able to drag anything? How the hell do I play this game? I've forgotten entirely. Oh, there we go. Why did that take so... Oh, okay, my mouse button was all screwy. That's probably why. Alright, yeah, now that I know you can trash stuff, you can sacrifice equipment. I can't sacrifice that? Okay, never mind. Hopefully, I'll do a little better this time. Maybe I'll be able to advance a little further this time. Maybe I'll be, like, super uber leveled up this time. I'll be the king of the world, and I won't be defeated so easily. Well, technically, I was never defeated in the first place. Like, I never actually lost this game. I did perfectly fine. It was no problem. It was very good. But I am hitting real slowly. What is this? Defense spell? Alright. We're gonna go this way, because I want to go this way. Die, jerk faces. Die! Ow. I've never actually heard my own voice at double the speed, so I don't know, I might sound incredibly hilarious. But I decided to do this because, well, you've seen this video already. There's not much to it. It's kind of like a very typical dungeon crawler, except, the enemies are actually not very varied in this game. They're all pretty much the same. Like I said, this game actually reminds me a lot of Hack Slash Crawl. Hack Slash Crawl is probably one of the simplest, yet most entertaining games in the world. I got 4 defense on that. Let's get rid of that. Whoop. Yay! I'm sacrificing stuff! I'm gonna level up faster this time. That's wonderful. I wasted like so many levels the last time not sacrificing anything. So this time around I'm not gonna be so dumb. Alright, so here's my theory, alright? I'm gonna get my speed up to 50, I'm gonna get my dex up to 50, and everything else is gonna go into attack. So as of now, let's go speed dex. And put that on. And chuck that, and chuck that. Hoo! Ha! Hee! Because you want to sort of attack and move at a decent level. Right? And then, but maybe as a human, it might be a good idea to pump some attack. But looking at the stats, I'm kind of... I don't know what the difference is. Well, technically because I didn't actually care. I didn't look in comparison with the Dark Elf to see which was better, so... All I know is that I'm now sacrificing stuff. Everything I come across, I am going to sacrifice. I am going to sacrifice everything. And once I'm done sacrificing everything, who knows what level I will be? Who knows? Who knows these things? So I got the last time, I got to the end in 4 parts of the video. So maybe if I double the speed, I may be able to get 2 parts and we'll be done with each part. And if I have a different ending on Insane, I might just do it again. And or maybe I'll just film the ending. Why not? That makes sense, doesn't it? People do that sometimes. They just film the endings. They don't have to film the entire game. Despite whatever, this game's actually still quite a bit of fun. It's still quite enjoyable. So let's get rid of that. Dex. Speed. Dex. Speed. See, already moving at a much more decent pace. As long as you don't freaking die! Don't die, Admiral! Don't die! Dying is for losers! Only losers die. That is actually true. Only losers die. Only people who die lose. So, depends on which way you want to look at it, man. You a glass half full, half empty kind of guy? That doesn't make any sense. No correlation whatsoever to those sentences. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter! Boop. And I'm gonna level up so much more now that I know that trick. Jeez. Look at that. I'm already level, what, 4? Yeah, I'm freaking level 4, man. I'm level 4, man. Man. Look at that. Look at that. Just tons of items. Just sacrifice to the gods. Seriously, though, who in the world are we sacrificing to? Seriously. Is there, like, some, you know, recycling shop that we're sacrificing to that just wants to take all our stuff? You know? Technically, this game is great for children. Because if you look at it, there is no blood, right? Everything's sort of adorable and pixely. You know, there's no real violence because the sword is not actually hitting anyone. You're shooting these tiny little bolts out. And it advocates recycling. This is like the perfect kids game. It is absolutely brilliant. Look at that. Recycling gets you levels. So why not try recycling in real life? You may level up too! Woo! One of the dumbest things I've ever said. What is inside here? Alright, I want more speed. Speed! Speed make you go fast! I like the speed. I like the speed very much. Boosh, 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 boosh. Alright, so, this game, in my opinion, has a lot of potential. It has a lot of potential to be something even more incredible. You know, add a little bit of a story, maybe. Well, not a little bit, a lot more of a story. Because I presume there is a story, although I just never bothered to watch it. But other than that, you know, get a bit of a story going on. You know, change some things around, have a couple more enemies, and so on and so on. This game could be incredibly good. My point of reference for, like, you know, a game that started off part 1 is like the most basic demonstration of concept, and then the sequel sort of expanding and adding all these different elements and then becoming an awesome game. My best example for that is Diamond Hollow. You go check out the Diamond Hollow walkthrough on my channel. I actually played Diamond Hollow 2 before I played Diamond Hollow 1, and Diamond Hollow 2 was a prime example of a game like this, with a simple mechanic. You know, there's no complications to it, there's nothing crazy going on, but it worked well, and then making a sequel and expanding on it made the game absolutely awesome. Diamond Hollow 2 is a fantastic game, absolutely great game, with upgrades and, you know, a storyline and level progressions and all that kind of stuff. It was absolutely fantastic. So, a game like this, kind of, you know, I look at it and I see the same potential, because it's a very fun mechanic, it's very simple, there's no complication to it, and everyone knows how to play this kind of games, and they're inherently fun. So, this has an absolutely humongous potential to be very, very, very good in its sequel. So I really hope that these guys make a sequel. If ever, you know, if you're the dev of this game, if you created this game, and you stumble upon this video, I am now officially asking you, make a sequel. Seriously, I would play the crap out of it. I would so play it. I don't need this ink. Get rid of that. I have 2 armor. I don't really need armor, though. It's got a whole bunch of craps. Ooh, new sword. 25 to 35. Alright, yeah, so, you know, just shout out to the makers of this game. Make a sequel. I would really want to play it. I would love to play this thing. You know, add a little bit more depth in it, add a little bit more enemies, add a little bit more different mechanics in the fighting style, you know, whether different types of weapons do different things, whether broadswords attack faster, daggers attack shorter range but really quick, long swords, whatever. You know, there's tons of mechanics that already exist in the gaming world that can be applied to a game like this and can make it absolutely wonderful, an absolute joy to play. I just popped all my points in speed. So 50 should be quite good to get me around. I know I'm not as fast as my Dark Elf character, but I think once I get to 50 speed, I should be comfortable enough to walk around and not moan and complain too much, I think. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pop my guy up to 50 speed, I'm gonna pop him up to 50 dex, and then after that, all the points are going to go into attack. Just because I can. There were other games like that too, that fit sort of that mold, where, you know, they took a very simple concept in game number 1 and it made it really ridiculously awesome in game number 2. Not just in Flash games. I think there have been sequels to games that have actually done that true to form before, you know, great successes that have created something fantastic based on a simple concept proven in the first episode of the game. You know, Warcraft would be a great example of that. And anyone ever played Warcraft 1 to Warcraft 2? I mean, seriously, the amount of depth increased in that just made that the Warcraft 2 such an amazing game. And you can date how, you know, how old my gaming life is, because Warcraft 2 was probably one of the earliest games that I've ever... No, that's not true. I actually played Warcraft 1. That was by accident. That was the... I say by accident, because that was the... You know when you buy a PC last time? You go to this PC fairs and they'd be demonstrating, like, the latest technology, like Sound Blaster was just coming out back then. Sound Blaster, I can't even talk to you, Sound Blaster was, like, supposedly the shit in audio devicing, and, you know, they were promoting their product, and so they bundled, like, these whole bunch of cheap games, can't sacrifice these, right? They bundled like these whole bunch of really just cheapo, crapo games together in the CDs. It's like they gave like 4 CDs together, and you know, you had like assortment of games that came with it. So I had my first ever RTS experience with that disc. That I remember very clearly. It came when we bought a PC. It came when we got the new Sound Blaster 16. Yeah, Sound Blaster 16. I can remember setting it up. I can remember very clearly setting the settings up. Sound Blaster 16 was where it was at last time, and yeah, I can remember that as my very early gaming experience. My very early sort of gaming life playing Warcraft. There were a couple others that came with it. I think Wing Commander, one of the Wing Commanders came with that thing. There was a purple disc called Scooter's Magic Castle. Go and Google that one. I wonder if you can find like screenshots of it just to show you how old this was. There's a little thing called Scooter's Magic Castle. And it had like it had a detective game on it. I'm trying to remember exactly what the name was, but it was like detective, some kid's detective game where you played these two children, Eagle Eye Detective or something like that. Where you played these two children and you were going around the city just solving really stupid crimes via clicking. And it had this little device called the Travis, if I'm not mistaken. The Travis, yeah, it's like Jarvis, except it's a small little computer that keeps notes for you. So that was I think one of my very first CD games, if I'm not mistaken. Everything else was in DOS and on discs. Yeah, I sort of came, I'm talking a little bit of history now because this is not necessarily the most exciting game to commentate on the second time through, so I'm just telling you stories right now. So I sort of came into the whole gaming world with still with DOS happening quite a bit. Like that was still a thing. So I still played some DOS games. I remember the first ever game I played was Lode Runner. That was number 1, Lode Runner DOS game. Then after that, I can't remember, and I played a couple other things. But the first Windows copy that I had was Windows 3.1. I can still remember it very clearly. Windows 3.1. And obviously, I think we got Doom at some point, for DOS and so on and so on. So yeah, that was my first exposure to playing games, was DOS games. And Windows 3.1 came along. And then, fast forward a little bit, we were playing, I think Dune was one of the games that I also started out playing, the early Dune games, which were really difficult to control because they hadn't quite perfected, they hadn't quite developed that, the interface that almost all RTS use now with the left click and the right click and, the more intuitive form of grouping and sending units to do your bidding and stuff like that. Yeah, that was the early Dune games that didn't have those. And they were just appalling. They were so difficult to get around, and they had those bloody sandworms that would just spontaneously eat your units if you left them alone on the sand. And certain races were more friendly to the sandworms. Certain races, you got your ass handed to you by the sandworms more often. It was the Atreides, the Ordos, and the Harkonnen. Holy crap, I still remember all those things. Man, Dune. What a game. That was something. That was quite a learning experience. But that was, I think, my second RTS. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Was it Dune first or Warcraft first? I don't remember. Yeah, but those were sort of mixed up in the bag. And then Warcraft came along. And after that, Command & Conquer came along. That replaced the sort of Dune era. So I started playing that. And, we had the Commandos. And I have very vague memories of playing Command & Conquer because I never had it on my own computer. It was on my cousin's computer. So after that, we started venturing into... I remember stumbling across this game on my cousin's PC. My cousin had a much more powerful PC than I ever had, just because I could afford a good PC, and he could. So he had some newer games that were coming out. And one of the games was a Westwood game. It was called Legend of Kyrandia. And you can go and find some playthroughs of that online. Or some people have actually gone back and played them. Orwa Usopp is one of the guys who I actually watched play that game all over again. Because it's got... the first 2 parts are kind of lame. The first part is about this little dude, Brandon, and it's got a weird story, and it's not as funny. The second one sort of put a little bit more jokes into it. It was a little bit funnier, the second lead character, which is a lady. But man, the third episode, Legend of Kyrandia 3, that one takes the cake. It was absolutely hilarious because you played this little, you played the villain that turned into the good guy called Malcolm. He was a jester. He was supposed to be a king. And it's all a bunch of really cool stuff. So the dialogue in that is really good. Go and check that one out. Legend of Kyrandia. It's a very weird text adventure, kind of in the vein of all those old adventure games, point-and-click adventure games. So that was one of my early experiences. Some of my other early experiences playing games was and these are no longer in chronological order. These are just me sort of remembering stuff that I played before. Alone in the Dark was another game that I remember playing in a very early phase. That was the first game that really just scared the crap out of me and my brother and my cousin. We couldn't even get past the first stage. You had a broken sword and a very lousy gun, and that was it. And we had to go and fight this really angry dog that was very vicious and very angry and very scary. So that was an early experience. What other early experience games that I've played? There was this other one. I think it was called Archon. Although I've been trying to, I know I've searched for this before, and I think it was not called Archon. It was called something else. But maybe it was. And if you remember this game, you can let me know in the comments. Archon is this chess game where you play a game of chess, but each time you went and sort of attacked the enemy unit, you engaged in this sort of isometric top-down view-ish kind of thing. You actually engaged in the control of the unit, and you actually went into a one-on-one fight screen that you were controlling, and you sort of ran around with this unit, and you killed the other unit. And that was the game. So even if the opponent's turn, and he chose to attack your unit, you could sort of retaliate in the screen. And each unit had a different power in the screen. And man, I think the game was called Archon, but I don't remember anymore, and I don't think I was successful in Google searching it. So if you remember this game, if you've ever played it before, this is way back when. This is like, what, 10, 15, 20 years ago, something like that? Back when DOS games were still a thing? Yeah, that was it. That was another early game experience. That was all on my cousin's PC. And then, I had a bunch of other DOS games. I had this big disc that had like 300 DOS games that you had to physically install from the disc. You had to CD something and install it, and then go to DOS and, create a drive, like create an E drive or a D drive, and then install the game there and then run it off of there. And there were just like really shitty DOS games. There was a fishing one that was quite fun. There was also a burger making one that I sort of enjoyed. What else was there? Yeah, a bunch of those. DOS games in general. Then after that was a lot of this was on my cousin's PC. For some reason I remember, I didn't even remember spending that much time with my cousin in his house, but every time I go to his house and, you know, our parents would allow us to turn the computer on, because this was back in the day where computers were only for weekends. Yes, boys and girls, computers were not part of everyday life. You only could play them on the weekends. So after about that time, I think Warcraft 2 sort of came out already. We were playing that, Warcraft 2. Red Alert came along, something like that. Like I said, I don't remember the time order of these. Red Alert came along, started playing that, and then I remember very well one of the games that I discovered along with my brother. We discovered it on our cousin's PC, was Dungeon Keeper. Man, Dungeon Keeper and we go a long way back. I have very, very fond memories of playing that game for the first time, and that game blew my mind. It literally just blew my mind, the concept of the game. Just getting creatures and just destroying heroes that became an attack the dungeon. That was a brand new concept at the time. I think it was very, very innovative. It was by Bullfrog. Bullfrog has sort of gone bust now, but they created they created Theme Hospital, which I think predated Dungeon Keeper, but I never played it. Yeah, and I played a bunch of Bullfrog games as well. Syndicate Plus, man. Syndicate Plus was another game I played, Bullfrog game, that I totally enjoyed. I can still remember the cheat code. There's a cheat code that you enter in, but that I don't remember where you enter it in. When you enter in rob a bank, you get like $1 million or something like that, and then you could go buy like the best miniguns and the best armor and all that kind of stuff. Major Syndicate's just indestructible. Man, that game, I don't think I ever played that game legit. Like, I always cheated when I played that game, so I just breezed through all the missions. But there was the expansion pack as well, American Syndicates. I remember all these names, man. Oh my gosh, I'm taking you guys down memory lane as I play Questopia. This is Admiral's early childhood memories of playing computer games. So that was a thing. Playing Syndicate Plus, Bullfrog, Dungeon Keeper. Yeah, those were all the really great stuff. And then there was a gap, I think, in between that I don't remember what I was playing anymore. And then StarCraft came along. And StarCraft was where everything sort of changed, where I started playing with RTS games, sort of dropped away from the adventure games a little bit. I never picked up Diablo 2 as much, but that was when I started getting into RTS quite a lot. So yeah, StarCraft was sort of the genesis of really playing a lot of RTS games. And StarCraft came out, I started playing StarCraft 15 years ago when it came out, 98, right? StarCraft came out in 98, right? Yeah, and I think I started playing it at a friend's house. And then again, my cousin got the CD, and I stole his CD. It was a fake CD, by the way. I will legitimately admit this. If you know you want to, if Blizzard wants to sort of get me for this, they can. But you have no proof because I'm only admitting it on a video, and that's not enough. But we had a pirated CD of the game. We had a fake CD, a bootleg copy of it, and had the CD key printed on the disc. Like it was like 0100. 0123 0100, something like that. I remember, I could actually remember that CD key by heart because I had to reinstall the game many times because my old computer, or my very first PC, the hard drive was just so tiny. It was so insignificantly small that I couldn't install multiple games on it at the same time. Like I couldn't install StarCraft and Dungeon Keeper, let's say, at the same time. I could only have one or the other. So with that in mind, you know, when I wanted to play a different game, I had to uninstall StarCraft and then install that other game and play that one. But I would always want to install StarCraft back because it's a game that I always just wanted to play over and over again. And so yeah, I sort of memorized the CD key every time I had to reinstall this game. So that was funny. That was an early experience, and I remember that was actually the first multiplayer game I ever played in my life. Was a StarCraft over modem. We played it over a 56K modem with a friend of mine. Me and my brother, we took turns to play with a friend of ours over a 56K modem. It was so laggy. Like you would click, and then it would take like literally 2 seconds before the unit did something, and that was a horrible experience. You know, but eventually we ended up winning. We played against AI, but we ended up winning, so that was all right. Yeah, that was a very fun experience. StarCraft was a very fun experience to me, and it has been a very influential part of my gaming past. Because I spent a lot of time playing StarCraft, and I got very engrossed in the story. I really loved the story in that one, and as such, you know, it's one of the few commercial games that I still keep up to date with. Like, I don't keep up to date with a lot of stuff. I don't buy new games on a very regular basis because I don't have a console, I don't have a PC, so I don't have a lot of money to spend on games. Games are expensive, man. Even on Steam and stuff like that. I don't own a lot of stuff. The most recent game I bought in memory was Borderlands. I got Borderlands 1 and 2 because I like the style of the game. But that was it. So other than that, I've never actually owned any other games aside from that. I think that was it. Yeah, StarCraft 2, Borderlands. I think that was all I had in recent gaming history. I never picked up a copy of Modern Warfare or Black Ops or whatever, Battlefield, Assassin's Creed. I never picked up any copies of these. So yeah, I'm quite detached really from gaming. Like I said, I don't have a console either, so that doesn't help at all. Because there are a lot of console games I do want to play. They look like a lot of fun, but never gotten to that. So too bad. But yeah, that's kind of a very long ass story of my gaming history. I hope you found that interesting, because if not, you know, this video may not be very, very interesting, so I'm just going to talk about stuff. Let's see, what other old games can I remember? I think since we started walking down memory lane, I'm going to continue walking down memory lane until we're pretty much done with the first half of this game. Try to record about an hour, so that if I speed it up, it goes to about half an hour, and that would be wonderful. So what other early memories of games do I have? There were definitely some other games that I played that were, you know, quite a bit of fun. What else did I play? What else can I remember playing? It's more like it. Oh man, Red Alert. Yeah, I mentioned Red Alert already, but Red Alert was another game that was very close to my heart. Red Alert was one of those games that again, was my very rare multiplayer experience. I very seldom played, multiplayer games. There used to be cyber cafes out around, where you go and play LAN games with your friends, and I never went to those that much, because once again, it's not like I had a lot of pocket money to spend. Those places were expensive. Back in the day, they used to charge like $3 an hour to use their computers and connect on the internet, but that was kind of the only place you could go to really play games with your friends. If you didn't have LAN cables to hook up to each other's computers, or you couldn't, your parents didn't want to ferry you and your humongous heavy PC to your friend's place to connect with them and play LAN games. So yeah, cyber cafes were the only place that you could sort of play with your friends. But I didn't do that much, but I do remember this one very, very epic incident where we went to this one cyber cafe, and this place was near my house, near my school. We went there one day, and they had a back room. Like, this was a very rare instance where they had like a very special back room with like 10 computers that were exclusive, that weren't shared with the bigger room, and you could close the door, and you could actually order like food. I mean, really shitty food. You could order nuggets and sausages, those mini cocktail sausages, and you could order like milkshakes and cokes and stuff like that. So this was a very weird place, but it was a lot of fun. So we went into this one room, and there were 8 of us, because this was when multiplayer was starting to get good. So Red Alert multiplayer, and I don't remember how we did this, or we found someone to do it for us, but there were people who were already starting to sort of create multiplayer maps for Red Alert, and there was this one map that somehow someone had hacked to, and it was a big island. It was based on the map called A Path Beyond. Now, I know the name of this map because I have actually, until quite recently, still played Red Alert on my computer. You can actually get it to run via DOSBox or something like that, and you can actually play Red Alert 1. This is Red Alert 1, by the way, not Red Alert 2, not Red Alert 3, Red Alert 1 I'm talking about. I actually still play it quite recently. Probably, within the past 2 years, something like that, I picked it up, and just messed with it again. So yeah, I did that, and okay, back to the story. A bunch of us, we went into this wonderful place, this cyber cafe, and we went to this back room, and we closed the door. There were 8 of us, and this was the max capacity of internet games back then. Red Alert, you could play 8 people maximum, and it didn't crash the computers because the cyber cafe had probably some of the top-notch computers anyways. So we went in, we picked an 8-player game. This was a map based on A Path Beyond, and oh wait, hang on, where am I? I'm lost. Oh, the stairs were there. I discovered them already. Okay, never mind. All right, so it was a map based on A Path Beyond. Some dude had managed to hack it and created the ore holes that normally regenerated ore to regenerate crystals. So there was a lot of money. It was almost infinite money in this map, and money in crystal form came in twice as fast. So we played this game, and it was a big island. If you don't know Path Beyond, was it a Path Beyond? I think it was a Path Beyond. Yeah, it's a big island surrounded by water. So you could play anything you want. It was this huge, the biggest size map, and it was surrounded by water. So you could play air, you could play tanks, and you could play boats, which was incredibly fun at the time, because there were very few Command and Conquer maps at the time, regular maps that allowed you to play boats. So subs and cruisers were a thing. Cruisers were a lot of fun. So me and my friends, we got into this 8-player game, and we were in this room, and we closed the door. And we turn everybody's PC up, the speakers, we turn it up to maximum. So everybody's computer is blasting maximum volume. And if you know Red Alert, if you've ever played Red Alert, right, you will know that it is one of the noisiest games in the world. Because every time you get a unit, it goes, unit lost, construction complete, insufficient funds, and all the wonderful things that it says. And it keeps saying it over and over and over and over and over again every time something happens. When your units get attacked, when your harvester gets attacked, when whatever, everything that happens gets informed through the game. But here you are, 8 of us in this room, and everyone's speaker is turned up to maximum. Everyone's volume is turned up to absolute maximum. So we can't tell whose computer is emitting which sounds. So you're just induced in this time of panic, this perpetual panic, because you're hearing shit and you don't know if it's yours or not. And then all of a sudden you will suddenly hear someone's got jets flying by and the MiGs are starting to do bombing runs in people's buildings. And then the most panicking sound, well, 2 of the most panicking sounds is when a Tesla coil starts charging. And because in a map where you have tons of crystals, there's also a possibility of building Tesla coils. You start building silos and power plants, and you start building Tesla coils out to someone else's base. So the sound of a Tesla coil is absolutely intimidating. It is terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. Because you don't know if it's near your base, or if it's someone attacking someone else's base, or whatever. You don't know anything anymore. It is incredibly terrifying. So yeah, that was one of my very, very fond experiences playing Red Alert with my friends. That's why Red Alert is a game that is very close to my heart, and every once in a while, when I can, I actually try and pick it up again, just because it's a lot of fun. I think there are a bunch of games that sort of missed out on the whole concept of Red Alert. I know that games like StarCraft and whatever have sort of created a new form of RTS playing, where it's very strategic. You're based around very realistic limits, like you can't have unlimited units. You have very limited resources. There's a lot of management goes on. Man, Red Alert was more just like freaking war. That was what Red Alert was all about. Red Alert was a war. The person that got the most cash, the fastest, who built the most factories and had the most number of tanks was the one who won. And there were no limit to how many tanks you could group in a single grouping, or no limit to how many factories you could build. You could build as many as you want and sped up production and stuff like that. And I like that idea of that one control bar that sort of controlled the production of everything. You were in this headquarters, and you didn't have to micromanage the buildings. Everything could be built from this one control panel on the side. I really dug that a lot. I really liked that a lot. So so much so that even when Red Alert 3 came around, like Red Alert 3 and well, all the other stuff, the Command and Conquer reboots came along, whether it was Generals or what was the latest one? Command and Conquer something. I don't remember anymore. But anyway, when those came along, then they started sort of redoing the concept to more Blizzard style. where, you know, stuff would happen and you would have to click on a building to build stuff and so on, and you had hotkeys and everything. They sort of switched to that, and I actually didn't quite like that. I felt like, you know, that Westwood back then, I think now, you know, the franchise was bought over by EA, but Westwood had an opportunity to create a totally different system for RTS games, and I had a feeling that, you know, that kind of stuff could have caught on if they had persisted with it and sort of tweaked it a little bit, you know, to make it more efficient. I actually really enjoyed playing Red Alert with that little side console. It made for a very interesting style of play. So you could sort of move all over the map, right? You could be controlling your tanks in one corner of the map while your base was at another corner, and you could still be building units the entire time. Then when your entire battalion was dead, you know, good and dead, you could just go back, you know, and you already had a second battalion ready, and you didn't have to move around in the map. You didn't have to sort of hotkey your buildings and go back and forth between your base and your buildings. No, you could just control your units the whole time and, you know, just walk around and move around, and at the same time you're building stuff. I very much dug that idea. That was very, very cool. So yeah, I kind of miss that you know, those bunch of games. I kind of really miss that system, which is why every once in a while I go back and I'll play Red Alert just for fun. There are a couple games that I always go back to every once in a while just for fun that I have on my computer, and they're on constant installed basis right now. They have a permanent part in my computer, and every once in a while I'll just pick it up and play it again just for fun. Red Alert's one of them. StarCraft is another. Dungeon Keeper is another. I love playing Dungeon Keeper. I've always loved playing Dungeon Keeper, and I think I'll continue to play it for the longest time. I didn't quite enjoy Dungeon Keeper 2, though. Some people say Dungeon Keeper 2 was definitely a refining of the Dungeon Keeper idea. I disagree. I think they sort of botched it up a little bit. There were some things that sort of didn't make any sense anymore, like the whole training up to level 4 only. I didn't quite like that. There are a few things that I did enjoy about the Dungeon Keeper 2 upgrades, like you could build buildings by dragging squares around them, but the whole graphics was not very nice. I didn't like the smaller, sort of minion-y, you know, look. I didn't like that. Certain things I didn't quite like. But overall, Dungeon Keeper series was a good one. Dungeon Keeper was a great one. I had Dungeon Keeper Gold. I actually bought the disc. That was the disc that I bought. So I was playing on my cousin's computer, like I said, and he had Ordinary Dungeon Keeper. When I finally decided to go buy a copy of my own, because I figured my computer could handle it, and I really wanted to play the game, I went and bought Dungeon Keeper Gold. So Dungeon Keeper Gold, if you don't know, has like the Deeper Dungeons expansion pack. It has this one incredibly strange, but I don't know why it's so funny, very hilarious interview with the Horn Reaper video. You can go look for it on YouTube. Just go look up Horn Reaper interview, and you will see the video in question. So Dungeon Keeper Gold came with that inside. It was like an Easter egg inside the disc. You had to go and find it. It was never shown, but it was inside the disc, and you had to go and look for it and find it. So I went and looked, and I found this video, and I watched it, and it was just very funny. It was a guy interviewing a Horn Reaper, and the Horn Reaper had a stutter. That was one of the funniest parts. The Horn Reaper, like, you couldn't say the word kill. Go look up the video. It's absolutely hilarious, and that was Dungeon Keeper Gold. He had the Deeper Dungeon expansion pack, which is a bunch of, it was 10 extra dungeons that was just very, very difficult, and it introduced multiplayer, I think, into the Dungeon Keeper world, so you could play with your friends. But I never did. I never managed to play Dungeon Keeper with friends, so maybe that's something that I may want to see if I can do in the future. Just get a bunch of people to play Dungeon Keeper with me. That'd be awesome. Yeah, so those are a bunch of games that I keep on hand at all times. Now Borderlands has sort of been added to the collection. It's a game that I'll definitely be playing continuously over the next couple of years, maybe. I don't know. It's a game I enjoy, so even if it gets old, I'll still play it, perhaps. Stuff like that. What else do I keep on hand? Oh, Death Spank. If you've never played Death Spank, you gotta check that one out. That game is absolutely hilarious. Okay, let's sort of put a little precursor to that. If you enjoy the cartoons of the 90s, all right? So if you enjoy very odd cartoons of the mid-90s, so it's the Steven Spielberg era of cartoons, and also the very strange sort of cartoons that were catered towards, well, both children and adults. So a cartoon like Earthworm Jim, if you ever watched the Earthworm Jim cartoon, is voiced by Dan Castellaneta of Homer Simpson fame. Dan Castellaneta voiced, I can't say his name very fast, Dan Castellaneta. He voiced Earthworm Jim in the Earthworm Jim adaptation cartoon, which was absolutely amazing. That thing is a cult classic. If you've never watched it before, you have to go and watch it. You owe it to yourself to watch perhaps one of the strangest video game adaptation cartoons in the world. They made a cartoon out of it, and it was actually successful for the most part. It had a very strange plot. It was just very strange in general. But you know, the story's very strange, and obviously it was one of those stories that just was anti-hero. It was hero that was not really hero. Hero that didn't act like a hero. It was not chivalrous like a hero. Sort of blasted everything in his view. That was kind of the dumb hero phase of cartoons. So heroes kind of stupid. Another one that you can consider is The Tick. Have you ever watched The Tick cartoon? I've actually watched a live-action TV show as well with Patrick Warburton, and that thing is hilarious. It's only like 8 episodes long. That's another cult classic. You can go check that one out. But if you ever watched the Tick cartoon, and if you enjoy that kind of stuff, like a really just ignorant hero kind of stuff, you will absolutely love Death Spank as a game. You gotta go check that one out. Death Spank is one of the most hilariously written games in the world. They have a series of, I think, of 3 games. Yeah, so that one's on my computer permanently as well now, ever since I discovered it. Torchlight is now on my computer. Torchlight 2. It's a game that I play and a game that I go back to every once in a while just because I want to play a different class. I finished Torchlight 1 twice with 2 different classes, with the sword guy and the gun girl. I can't remember what the classes are called, but yeah, I played that too. Then Torchlight 2 I've also finished twice. I've finished the story with the engineer and with the shooter girl, whatever her name is. So those are on my computer. What else is on my computer? What else is on my go-to games that I go back to? I think those are it. Those are pretty much it. StarCraft 2 was obviously making this, but those are all the more recent. I'm talking about the older ones. Yeah, I think that's about it. That's been my gaming history, so that's why you see me spend a vast majority of my time still playing Flash games, because I don't have that many games that I play. Like, I don't check out new stuff. I'm up to date on the new stuff. I know when new stuff comes out, and I know when, you know, there's certain games from Mac that I want to try at some point, and stuff that's on Steam. Binding of Isaac was something that I found on Steam, and I really enjoyed playing. So, you know, I do keep an eye out for games and future games and stuff like that. I do keep an eye out. You know, I'm not necessarily inclined to buy new games to play. That's one of the things I don't do. I don't spend money to buy video games as much as most people do. So that's why I don't have a lot of games that I play. So I always come back to Flash games. My good old standard. It's kind of been there for me. It's been there for me through the roughest times. We're such good friends now. Superior healing spell. Sweet. Alright, let's get out of here. Anyway, oh yeah, there's another thing I wanted to mention based on the Dungeon Keeper experience. When that game Dungeons came out, the first time it came out by was it Calypso Media? I think it was supposed to be the spiritual successor of Dungeon Keeper, but it didn't quite. I think it got like really crappy reviews in general. And I think now was there a Kickstarter to create like another game by the same creator? You know, Peter Molyneux it's not by him, but it was created by someone, a bunch of fans of Dungeon Keeper, and Peter Molyneux actually endorsed this game on Kickstarter. Like he said, this game needs to be made, it needs your support, it needs to be made. It was like it was a tribute to Dungeon Keeper, and I don't remember what the update is on that one, but when that does come out, I would so want to play it because Dungeon Keeper is one of my most favorite games. It has a very special place in my heart. Like I said, it's one of the games that I actually go back and play every now and then. I still have it on my computer. And I'm actually speaking of which, I'm actually in the midst of a playthrough of Dungeon Keeper. Maybe one day I'll record that. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows what's in store for Admiral? Who knows if Admiral will decide to expand outside his Flashplay? That's an idea, isn't it? But anyway. So yeah, Dungeon Keeper's got it's one of those great sort of classic games that gets very little attention. I think it's not huge. I think Bullfrog in general was a very small game studio, so a lot of the stuff they made had like very cult followings, but was never very mainstream. Yeah, so but I love the stuff they made. A lot of the Bullfrog games I played, Team Hospital was another one that I kind of enjoyed. It got frustrating after a while because these kind of sort of sim games, once it reaches a certain level, it starts to stop being fun. If you know what I mean. Like I played Caesar. Caesar 3 was another game I played. That was, those are the city building games. I actually bought Cleopatra, Pharaoh Cleopatra, the Cleopatra. Why am I pronouncing a name with an H? I have no idea. But Pharaoh was another game that I bought, but I played Caesar 3. I didn't play Pharaoh. I didn't really like Pharaoh. I think this is a lot better than that. Okay. Yeah, so those city building games, man, I don't think I have the best time playing them. I'm not that kind of player who enjoys that kind of stuff. A lot of micromanaging and resource managing and, human managing. You have to manage, like, population management and all that kind of stuff. Man, I am really shit at those kind of games. I'm really horrible. So I remember playing Caesar 3, and, wasn't very good at it. First couple levels are easy, that's when stuff sort of just happens and you just go with it. And after that is when stuff starts to get really complex and you have to depend on other countries to trade, other cities to trade, to get all your resources to keep your population happy and to grow them into these bigger houses, and you have to get the water to them, you have to get the entertainment to them. City planning was never my strong point. So I remember playing Caesar 3, and Caesar 3, and a lot of games actually back in the day, these were games that had their data stored in text files. So there was a text file that you could access that contained all the governing data of the game. So this was a game that you could just go in and edit anything you want, so long as you knew where the information was. And Caesar was one of these games where I actually edited the game, and because I was such a cheat, and I didn't want to have the hassle of getting resources for Caesar, I never wanted to bother about money, so I just could build whatever the hell I wanted. The option to dig stuff up, like that option to dig grass up and dig whatever up, I changed the value from like $5 I think in game or $1 in game to -100. So I gained $100 every time I dug a square of grass. So what happens when I had no money to build anything? I would just build a patch of houses or something like that, and I just dig it up immediately, and I get a whole bunch of money. And I did the same thing for Dungeon Keeper as well, back when I was not very good at games, and I was a very firm believer in cheating. Because when you're a kid, sometimes when you're not very good, you just want to be able to beat the game. You don't really care about the challenge or the experience. So I cheated, and Dungeon Keeper 2 had a text file that you could edit so that every piece of data in the game, like you could edit how much stuff costs. So I edited the price of traps. Like traps would cost negative amounts of money. So every time I ran out of money, and certain levels you really were pressed for gold, and those are the levels that you're supposed to be efficient about how you train your monsters, and you don't spend too much money building unnecessary rooms and stuff like that, and you get your resources via different means and stuff like that. So I changed the price of the traps to negative amounts, and then we found out that you could actually literally change every piece of data in the game. You could change how much it cost to train creatures. You could change how much experience it took to train a creature. You could change anything you wanted in this game. So my brother became very ambitious with this discovery, and what he did was he made a spreadsheet. I know it's weird to say that, but he made a spreadsheet from the in-game thing, the text file data, that allowed him to sort of look at every piece of data about every single creature. And he created the ultimate imp. Like, he made an imp that would train itself in a matter of seconds. So they required literally a second to sort of train from level 1 to level 10, which is the max level. And these imps had like a motley of ridiculously powerful spells. Like, he made the imps able to shoot lightning. He made the imps able to teleport and to speed themselves up and to search and destroy and all the crazy things that imps weren't supposed to do. They were supposed to run from the battle. Like, he made them into like the ultimate warriors, which was absolutely hilarious for the most part. That was incredibly hilarious. So yeah, we had fun sort of editing the game data. That was very, very strange. Very, very strange indeed. yeah, city building games. I think, you know, Caesar was my first experience. I never actually played SimCity. I had a friend who was very good at SimCity, and every time we went to his house, we'd watch him play SimCity. And this was, I don't remember which SimCity this was, but this was the SimCity that had natural disasters, and you could call in like Godzilla to come and destroy the city and stuff like that. So yeah, this was that era SimCity. I don't remember which it was. Was this SimCity 2000 or something like that? So yeah, we watched him play it, and I was never really good at those games. I really struggled playing those games, so I never had a lot of fun playing the sim games. You know, certain games I kind of tried and was never really good at, like the Tycoon games as well. I never really enjoyed. Probably, you know, most of the times because at certain levels it just stopped becoming fun. Like it was fun for the start. Like when we started, it was pretty cool. It was all right. Then after that, it just started to get tedious because there's too many things to manage, and I didn't enjoy playing those games after a while. But yeah, that was an interesting time. You know, I grew up sort of when games were starting to get a little bit more mainstream. I missed the whole NES era. I never had an NES. Like I said, I never had a console. My first console that I ever had was a Sega, one of the Sega consoles. I don't remember. I don't think it was the Dreamcast. I think it was the Sega Saturn. I think. I could be wrong. I've been known to be wrong before. But that was our, you know, first console my brother shared and I. Those cartridges that you had to blow on to make it work. Obviously, those are very fond memories for a lot of people, you know, childhood stuff. And then my first handheld was a Game Boy, the original Game Boy, and I played Pokemon Yellow on that thing. And I had over 200 hours of game on that thing. I had a lot of level 1, level 100s, sorry. I'm very proud of it. And I was one of the guys who could challenge other people in that game and win. Yeah, I was like the badass of Pokemon. You know, Pokemon Yellow, back when Pokemon Yellow was still a thing, and you had to use those old chunky connect cables that not everyone had. And you know, even the DC adapters, not everyone had. I still ran mine on batteries. You know, those envious of the guys with the DC plugs that you could just plug into the wall and not ever have to worry about batteries ever again. You know, so I bought rechargeable batteries for mine. You know, I had ordinary batteries too. You had to buy cheap batteries, and they wouldn't last very long and stuff like that. So that was a thing. And Pokemon, yeah, man, I was the king of freaking Pokemon. I legitimately collected, I think, 149 Pokemon, or 150. I know it was 149. I was missing one, and I was missing, obviously, the Mew, which you had to get by special events. But I was missing the Taurus, or the Taurus. Tauros? It's spelled T-A-U-R-O-S. So I was missing that guy from the Safari. I remember that very, very well, and that pissed me off. And I never, ever managed to complete a Pokedex before in my life. Never once completed a Pokedex in my life. The only time I ever completed a Pokedex was when I played Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, I think. Was the first time I ever completed that original Pokedex. But that's because I used an emulation system on my computer. I was playing Visual Boy Advance, VBA, and that was the PC version of VBA, which had an ability to connect. So you could open up two VBA windows, load two separate save games, and connect with yourself, and trade Pokemon to yourself. So that was the first time I ever cheated and completed a Pokedex. never actually legitimately completed a Pokedex before in my life. I know people who've done that before, though. Like the real Poke nerds. And you know, the thing now with the Nintendo DS and with Wi-Fi connectability, it's so much easier. Back in the day, you had to use the Connect cables. Like, you actually had to have the physical cable to connect to another Game Boy. Otherwise, you just couldn't. You were just shit out of luck if you didn't have one of those. You couldn't connect it. And I remember, you know, playing those Game Boy games that you have to connect to another person and play. Those were quite interesting. We used to have, you know, school days where school, you know, the last day of school, this was, you know, an equivalent of elementary school. We called it primary school. The last days of school when the exams were all over and done with, you know, was the day where you sort of, the teachers would finally allow you to bring whatever entertainment you wanted. So people started bringing radios to play your favorite music. People started bringing board games. You know, people started bringing snacks to class. And we had class parties and all that kind of stuff. So a bunch of us, we would bring our Game Boys. And we would have Pokemon sessions in school. Yeah, we had a bunch of those, so that was my first handheld, and I've never actually owned another handheld. It was my first and only handheld. It served me very well. It served me for a very wonderful period of my life. I was very happy with it. I had a grand total, I think, of 3 cartridges in my entire life of owning a Game Boy. I had the compendium ones, which were like 5 million games in a single cartridge, and half of them were repeats of the other game. That was my first time playing Super Mario Land or Super Mario Brothers. I think it was Super Mario Land, the Game Boy version. Yeah, it was SML. That one I remember. So I played that for the first time on my Game Boy. It was Mario Advance, I think Super Mario 4, I think, was the one, where you could start wearing suits and all that kind of stuff. So that was my other experience playing on the Game Boy. So, yeah, you know, I had a good time playing the Game Boy. That was my first cartridge. The second cartridge I owned was Pokemon Yellow, I think, was the second one I owned. And then the third one, I can't remember what the hell it was. I'm going to die here. And from what I remember, people said that if you die in this game, you die for good. So I'm going to try not to freaking die, but I'm going to try and kill this thing. Man, this guy's not easy. He's tough. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. He's back coming. Alright, I think we should bring the commentary all the way around now and come back to the game Questopia. We've had enough of nostalgia. You've sort of taken a walk with me back through my early days of my history of gaming, my early days of playing video games. Hopefully you enjoyed that story. This is almost like a podcast now. It's not really me playing a game anymore. It's just me having a game in the background, talking about stuff unrelated to the game while you watch and listen. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I don't know. But I'm going to call it quits soon. Hopefully I don't die in the process. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. This is bad. This is very bad. This is very bad. Alright, good. My MP recharged enough to the point where I'm okay to go. Crap. Immediately took in a bunch of damage. Stop shooting so frequently. You better give me a freaking potion, man. I would accept an energy potion too. I'm not picky right now, I'm about to die. Alright, health potion. Sweet. Get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. Time to level up. Woo! So I'm gonna call this video quits very soon, and then when we come back, we'll try and finish up this whole section. I hope it sounds okay, sped up. It's the first time I've ever attempted to do a video sped up before. Because I don't want you guys to be watching this thing for too long. It's gonna be boring. It's gonna be very boring. Woohoo! Level up! Sweet. Attack! More attack! Lots and lots of attack. I'm gonna stand still, I'm gonna murder you. Uh-oh, not unless this guy can move up. Oof, dead! Ah! Pop that in, drink that. Throw this in there, drink that. Throw this in there, throw this in there. Throw this in there. Oof. Man, I'm level 19 already. Sweet. Alright, I'm gonna kill this boss and then we're gonna call it this. So I reached level 19. In level 15 of the game. Is that doing better than we did previously? I don't remember. Alright, we're gonna get out of here. And I'm gonna call it quits for now, and hopefully next time we will finish Questopia on hard. Thank you guys for sticking around and listening to me tell really weird random stories. And I will see you guys next time where we will conclude Questopia on hard and see what the freaking second ending is. General signing out.